What's up, guys? This is Ty Zen again, and in this video, guys, I want to share with you guys the third piece or the third part of Sun Tzu's lessons. General Sun Tzu from the famous military classic on strategy called The Art of War. In that book, there was three lessons that I learned that I haven't forgotten, so I want to share it with you guys. The first one was know yourself. The second one was know your opponent or your enemy or the people you're dealing with. And the third one is know your terrain and know your environment in which you're dealing in, that you're working in, so that you can win every battle. Okay, so when General Sun Tzu talked about winning the battles, what he talks about is the environment in which you're in, or the goal or the objective that you are trying to achieve. In his military classic called The Art of War, he talks about using these different strategies in military confrontations and battles. But in this video, I want to talk about how you can use the things that he taught in his book, The Art of War, and use it to create a life-changing amount of finance in your life. And when I talk about a life-changing amount of finance, if you watch my previous episodes, you'll know that I'm not talking about making a 5 or 10% or 20% increase in your salary or your income. We're talking about creating a life-changing amount of finance, and that can possibly keep you from having to work for the next 10, 20, 50 years. That's what I consider a life-changing amount of finance, okay? Or maybe never have to work again the rest of your life, okay? So like, for example, like Vitalik Buterin, the inventor of Ethereum, or Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of the Facebook, and then like Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. So any of these guys, they never have to work again for the rest of their life because they were able to create something that was a life-changing amount of finance for themselves. Okay, you don't have to create billions of dollars or even millions of dollars to create a life-changing amount of finance, but you do have to create enough money that will sustain you for the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years in order for it to constitute a life-changing amount of finance. Okay, making enough money to live for another 2-3 months and pay all your bills for the next 2-3 months or next year is not really what I can constitute life-changing amounts of finance. It'll have to be about 10, 20 years or better, okay? So in this third episode and the third part of this three-piece series on knowing yourself, knowing your opponent, I'm going to talk about the third part, the last part, about knowing your terrain and the environment in which you deal in, okay? So this is important because if you don't know the terrain or the environment in which you deal in, it can be very challenging and hinder your growth and hinder your ability to make money. Okay, so I was working. Let me see. I was at a place one time. Okay, I'm not going to say what it is because in case they listen to this and use this and flip it back against me, right? But wherever you work at, or in business or in employment, whether you work for someone or you're building your own business, right? It's important that you know your environment because if you work, let's talk about when you work for someone. Okay, it's important to know the politics, what they call the office politics or the corporate politics of a place. I worked at a place one time where I did not realize that the manager was best friends with the chief operating officer of the company. Okay, so I would always give him a hard time, and then I would go and the manager was screwing us around. And when I met the COO of the company, I was bringing it up to him how this guy was screwing people around, and I didn't realize that was his best friend. So you gotta always be careful about that, the environment in which you work in. Okay, so if you don't, realize that, okay, that could be dangerous. At another time, I was teaching art at this place, and next door there was an instructor that was teaching I think it was an English class or a math class. I forget what the subject was, but I did not realize that the student that was getting extra help after class every day, right? When I went over there to see how the classes were going, um, the instructor was very evasive and was not wanting to talk to me. And I did not realize that they were having the instructor and the student was having a sexual relations together. Okay, and this is when I was young, guys, and I was in my early 20s. I didn't understand the terrain, the environment I was operating in. So every time I tried to get things done there was always like roadblocks, right? Because what I didn't realize until many years later was that what I was trying to accomplish, it interfered with the instructor's time to spend time with the student to have their relationship. Okay, so because of that, it created a lot of problems. Me and that instructor were always butting heads because I didn't know that that was going on in the work environment, in that terrain. So I didn't understand the environment. Okay, now at the same time, I worked at a different place at this warehouse one time where one of the clerks at the warehouse was having a relationship with another coworker. Okay, and in this particular incident, I was fully aware that it was happening, and they had a very big policy about, at that company that I was working at, that they had a really strict policy that you could not be dating each other if you were working there, right? And so one time I came into the warehouse, and I was one of the few people that had access to this particular section of the warehouse, right? And so I went in there, and I caught these two co-workers, these two people having a relationship there in the warehouse, in a spot that they thought that no one would access. And I was bringing stuff back there to put into the warehouse. And when I saw them, I understood the environment in which I was in, and I understood the conditions that I was in and the terrain in which I was in, that if I was to go and snitch on them or tattletale on them or report them to the managers about it or mention it to anybody, right, that I would create a lot of friction with these two coworkers, okay, massive amounts of friction. Now, we were not friends or anything, but I happened to catch them walking in on them, okay? So because of that, instead of making a scene and asking, and I didn't want them to get fired either, okay? I mean, we were not enemies, we were not friends, but we were not enemies either. We just worked at the same place. I knew who they were, they knew who I was, and in my opinion, there was no point in reporting them to the managers or to superiors, okay? Because there was no point in them losing their jobs and jeopardizing their relationship and their family. People meet each other, they fall in love with each other. I mean, that's not for me to say whether or not they should be in love with each other at work or not, okay? So what I did was I dropped the boxes, I put the boxes on the shelves like I was supposed to, and then I just walked out of there. I never bothered to say anything hello to them. I never asked them what they were doing in there. I mean, it was very obvious what they were doing in there because I walked in on them, okay? And the part about it was that I caught them completely off guard, okay? But I knew the environment and the terrain in which I worked in. And so fast forward many, many months later, okay? Because I did not report them, I did not even acknowledge them, even though they knew that I knew that they were there. Okay, I mean, I kicked the door in, they were there, right there in front of me, doing their stuff. Okay, and so because of that, I didn't say anything. I didn't mention it to anyone. I never even bothered asking either one of them about it. I never even brought it up in a conversation or anything. And you fast forward many months later, there was a position where it was available to be promoted, and because I was one of the candidates, they actually put in the word for me and told the managers and the advisors I was somebody that could be trusted to take that position. And I know that they put in input simply because I didn't say anything about what they did many, many months ago when I caught them in the back of the warehouse doing their thing. Okay? So because of that, it paid off many months later. Okay? So because of that, knowing the environment and the work environment that you're in makes a huge difference, okay? Especially when you work in an environment where, I have another example where I worked at a place where one of the sales guys, he did not like the sales manager, okay? He did not believe that the sales manager knew how to sell, okay? And he didn't like the idea that the sales manager was one of the lousy sales guys on the team, and because he sucked at sales, now they promoted him to be the sales manager, and all the guys that knew how to sell hated his ass, okay? Because they thought that, they did not believe in having a lousy sales guy as their leader, okay? So because of that, my friend would always talk shit and talk down and talk in a condescending manner to this sales manager that he believed should not have been a sales manager because the guy was incompetent. And little did he know that the incompetent sales manager was actually friends with the C-level executives. And because of that, right, my friend ended up getting fired for talking down to the sales manager. He eventually got fired, okay? So because of that, okay, it's always important to know the terrain and the environment in which you're working in, okay? So another example of knowing your terrain or your environment, okay, is in the when I first got into the cryptocurrency world, okay, I did not realize that there was a lot of trolling going on in the forums and on the YouTube channels. So at the beginning, I was new to blogging and making videos about cryptocurrencies and stuff, and it wasn't, excuse me, I was blogging and there would be people that I thought were hating on me, which I've come to find out they were just trolling just for fun. So knowing that environment now, I know how to handle the trolls, and I know how to deal with them, and I know how to defend against them, okay, without wasting my time, okay? So those are just some of the examples that I want to share with you guys. Another example is knowing the terrain, the environment. So when I got into trading stocks and trading currencies, I was doing that well for many years without any problems. But when I got into the cryptocurrency trading and investing, it was a whole new arena, a whole new terrain, and a whole new environment for me that I was not aware of. I was not used to trading something or investing in something that had low liquidity. I was not used to trading something that had 8 decimal places. There are gaps all over the charts, and I thought it was a bad thing. And I come to find out that that's normal in cryptocurrency trading. The intraday gaps during the day are normal, whereas when I trade stocks, the gaps only happen at the beginning of the day. When the market closes and it opens the next day. In the cryptocurrency world, it's a true 24-hour market. You can trade it 24 hours a day. There is no downtime whatsoever. Even in the currency market, they say that the currency market and the futures market have a 24-hour trading, but it's actually not true because they have to stop their trading at some point during the day and settle all the traders' transactions before the market continue. Even though that period is a very short period of time, they still have to stop their trading. So what happens is the price can gap up or gap down when the market opens up after that settlement period. But in cryptocurrency trading, there is no settlement period because everything gets settled right away. So because of that, I had to readapt my trading methodologies and learn how to trade in an environment that is truly a 24-hour market, okay? And the other thing that was new to me in cryptocurrency trading in this terrain, okay, in this environment, was that in the traditional trading world of stocks and currencies and futures and commodities, they trade where you have to be qualified, they have to do a background check, you have to have a certain minimum account balance, you have to have about $30,000 or more to effectively day trade stocks. They say $25,000 is the limit, the minimum, but actually you need way more than that. In the currencies and in the futures market, there's leverage. So the way that when you short currencies or futures or stocks in a leverage market, the results are a lot different than shorting like in the cryptocurrency world, where when you borrow the inventory to short it, the results are a lot different. So that's why you guys don't hear me talking a lot about shorting in the cryptocurrencies, because it's not as beneficial as in the other markets, okay? Because the leverage is not there, okay? So those are some examples, guys, of Sun Tzu's lesson on knowing the terrain and knowing the environment so they can help you create a life-changing amount of finance. If you guys like these types of videos, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't like it, give me a thumbs down, and then I'll stop making them. And if you guys have any other suggestions for future videos, leave it in the comment section. If you guys have any friends, colleagues, or coworkers, or family members, or friends that want to learn how to create a life-changing amount of finance, especially in the cryptocurrency world, then make sure that you share my channel with them. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys in a future video.